All right, welcome everybody. What we're going to be working on today is the risk management lab, where we're going to be using a wonderful Cisco ASA 5505 series security appliance, fresh out of the box. We'll be using our 10-port SG300 layer 3 switch, but as you can see, because the light is blinking rapidly, that is right now strictly just a layer 2 switch. And the lab that we're going to be working with here, really what we're going to be setting up, is this configuration here. So we'll be using a lab station PC, which I'm going to use this laptop right here. Setting up this configuration here, we will plug our laptop into our switch over here, and then the switch will then plug into the ASA here, and then we will use our Ethernet cable, which comes from all the way over there, which brings the internet to plug into here to complete our lab, and then set up our network with a firewall appliance in between. So let's go ahead and get started here. One of the first things we want to do is we want to make sure that we have our PC plugged into our switch, and then our switch plugged into the ASA based on the correct ports. With our ASAs, we also want to make sure that our internet is always going to be plugged into port 0, and then where it pulls a DHCP address from the ISP, and then the ASA will then dole out DHCP to the devices that it needs. So let's go ahead and get going and get set up. Okay. Obviously, one of the first things that we need to do always is to make sure that we plug our ASA appliance in. It's amazing how these things need electricity to get going. Okay. Go ahead and let the ASA run its boot information. This crazy long cable that I have right here, this is going to be port 0. This is my internet cable, and as you can see right here, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, and then 7 cables right here. These two right here are power over Ethernet. Go ahead and plug ourselves into port 0 there. We're going to take this patch cable here, and we're going to plug this into port 1. Of our switch, and we're going to plug it into port 1 of our ASA. The next thing that we need to do is then plug our PC into the switch as well. So I'm going to go ahead and go get a patch cable for that. When we're working in a classroom environment, we always want to make sure that the cables we're using are always going to be good cables. You can never be too sure. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a test on this particular cable before I go and throw into production and find out what is again. All right, as you can see, it looks like we got a good cable here, so let's go ahead and use this to plug into our desktop. And we'll go ahead and just plug that into port number 2. Okay, we got blinkety blink lights over there. We're good to go there. Let's go ahead and get this phone out of our way. All right, so with ourselves all plugged up according to the map, what next thing we need to do is we need to be able to console into our our ASA. So let's go ahead and grab a console cable. Now, since I don't have a serial connection on my laptop, I have to use a USB to serial device. We'll go ahead and plug this in to our USB port. It then plugs into my console cable. We'll go to the back of our device here. You'll see our console cable is right here. We'll go ahead and plug into here. You can use any program that you want here. You can use Putty, you can use TerraTerm, you can use even HyperTerminal if you can still find it. That came with Windows XP back in the day. I'm going to go right into our risk management lab here. We've got our layer 1 connectivity all set up. The PC is connected to the hack network the way we want it to. We're going to open up a command prompt here real fast and see if we got ourselves an IP address. Go down here, we'll see our wireless LAN adapter is already connected, but we wanted to go ahead and check on our Ethernet adapter here, not our wireless LAN. So let's see if we can find that bad boy. And my my Ethernet adapter is 192.168.1.11. Let's go ahead and double check to make sure that we don't have that statically assigned from another lab that we had previously. I'm just going to jump into my adapter options. And it is, so we're going to go ahead and remove the, make everything automatic. Remember, every time that we make a change in here, you want to hit OK, and then OK again. Never hit cancel until you get back to here. Now, if we take a look, you'll see that we are 192.168.1.6, not 1.11. We received that address through a DHCP. Let's go ahead and close out of that. You also may have noticed that it picked up my DNS servers through the ASA and onto my network as well. Next thing, as we've already done, we've connected our console cable into the ASA firewall, and we're going to now jump into the program that we're going to use. I personally am a fan of TerraTerm, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into TerraTerm. I'm going to use my serial connection down here. Okay. If you're ever confused about this, now this one here is using COM3. Sometimes you might have multiple COM ports here. The way to find out which one is best for you, you want to right-click your Start button, go to your Device Manager, and when that opens up, you want to come down here to where it says Port, COM, and LPT. And you'll see that I am using USB to serial COM port 3. So TerraTerm did pick the right one for me here. Let's go ahead and click OK. Hit your Enter key to enter into the console and to open up your terminal session. You can see that we're listed as on the Cisco ASA, and we're going to issue the question mark command here, which just tells you what commands you can actually get away with at this point. I'm going to go ahead and shut off our GoPro here for the moment, and we'll continue to record our session using just the laptop. Next thing we want to do, let's go ahead and take a look at our show version here. Can't type today. There we go. And you'll see what version of the ASA that we're running. Device Manager version 6.4. Okay, it's been up for 7 minutes. Hardware version, how much RAM we had, the CPU that we've got. And then it also gives us information about our ports. If we hit our enter key, we can go one line at a time, and you can see all the different ports and interfaces that we're currently using. If we use our space key, space bar, then you'll be able to move one screen at a time. Next we want to look at, let's go ahead and take a look at our show running config. And you'll notice it's arguing with me here. It doesn't like my show running config. Command. Oh, so it doesn't like that. So in essence, a lot of times when this is happening to us, it's because it doesn't like the fact at this point here, you'll see that we just have a greater than symbol. And that greater than symbol says that I'm in user exec mode, not privilege exec mode. So we wouldn't want to be able to give out information about our firewall of all things to someone who just happened upon our device. So we have to make sure that that person is what we call a privilege exec user. So we're going to go ahead and type enable, or EN in this case here. Now by default, when we have an ASA for the first time, fresh out of the box, there typically is no password on that. So all I had to do was hit the enter key. You'll see now that I have a pound sign after the Cisco ASA, which tells me that I am now in privileged exec mode, which now I could do a show run. And it would tell me all the configs that are currently on here. So you can see that I'm running on interface VLAN 1 on the inside, that I have an IP address of 192.168.1.1. This enables me to be able to remotely connect to my firewall from the outside as long as that interface is up. It also shows that on interface VLAN 2, okay, it's called my outside interface. The outside interface is the one that I am using to pull information from the outside world, and it's using DHCP, and it's also got the route set to automatically as my default gateway, basically. It also shows my DHCP pool, okay, and you remember that our IP address in here was the 192.168.1.6, and it's doling out 192.168.1.5 all the way to 192.168.1.36. This is on my inside. You'll notice the other one, my other address, my other interface was my outside interface. The reason we have that set that way is because we're going to have to NAT our inside addresses to our outside addresses. And then just more security information is posted on through for our firewall. Okay? Now, the first thing we want to do every time we set up a new device is we want to make sure that our device is set to factory defaults. And one of the ways that we do that is we want to get into the config terminal. We're just going to tell it to ask me that crap later. Okay? So again, in the config terminal, notice my prompt has changed from a privileged exec to what we now call global configuration mode. And I want to configure this to be factory default. This is the way that, say for example, we would erase the configs that are on and set it back so the way it comes right out of the box. We're going to type that in there, and it says the boot system will be used on next reload. Right, begin and now it applies factory default. It's going through execute commands, getting everything in there. It's currently right now resetting our device. So now we're back to factory default. We do not have to go ahead and type a reload command to reboot it. It automatically set everything back to factory defaults. You see now we're still back in global config mode, and that the device's name is Cisco ASA, which is, it's not going to give me a lot of information, especially if I have a number of ASA appliances in my building that I'm currently working with. So I'm going to go ahead and change the name. Much like you're changing the name of a switch or a router, we're just going to use the host name command, and I'm going to call mine the Bridge House Firewall. No spaces are allowed, so, and God doesn't like my underscore. Hostname must start and end with a letter or a digit, and has an interior characters, only letters or digits, or a hyphen. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to take away the underscore and give it a hyphen instead, and there we go. Now you'll notice that the host name on my configuration has changed. I want to give it a username and a password. Now this is our local database that we're going to create on our device. This is what is used when we're trying to connect via remotely. We're going to have an internal database that houses the username and the password that we're going to use. Simple commands such as username, and I'm just going to make my username Mike. Right? You notice I did all lowercase. Now also notice that I put a space after username, because username is the command that requires a parameter. And then the password, the second part of this. Okay? Now I'm just going to make my password something simple. I'm going to make a password. Okay? So now the username for this device is Mike, and the password is going to be password. It's going to be easier for us to get in when we need to. Now we're also going to set what's called our Telnet password. That's going to be my pass WD. Okay, this sets the Telnet password. Okay, we're going to make ours Cisco. Now we're going to encrypt our enable password, the one that got us in privileged exec mode. So we're going to say enable password. And the password we're going to have is Cisco. Actually, I don't want to use Cisco. I'm going to use class. I'm going to change that. So Cisco to get in, class to get the privileged exec mode. I'm going to exit out of that, and I'm going to go ahead and do a show running config, and just to see if any of, so you can see what has been changed. So the enable password is now this, and as you can see, it's been encrypted. And in the passwd, which is my Telnet password, is right here. That has also been encrypted. So you don't know by running a show run that the passwords on this are Cisco and Clash. They have been encrypted. And nothing else has pretty much changed in here. Okay. Next thing we want to do on our PC, okay, we want to make sure that we have something in that pool. Now we've already done that. I'm just going to go ahead here and I'm just going to run another IP config, and it should see that we are 1.6, which is the first address available in the pool, because we started off from 5 on up. We know that our subnet mask was 255 to 255, and what's our gateway on this? We're going to do a config. We're going to do it same thing this time, but I want to see a little bit more information. Let's see what our DNS, what our default gateway is 192.168.1.1. Okay, and what was important about this, and what is significant about this, is that we got this information from the firewall on the DHCP. Now, before we got into here, we were able to ping all over the world. So now we want to find out, can we ping from in here now? Okay, so let's go ahead and let's ping www.google.com. And as you can see, I'm not having a whole lot of luck in pinging google.com. But I wonder if we can ping another device, maybe something closer by, maybe something that might not be blocking our ICMP packet. So let's try pinging Amazon. As you can see, I'm resolving the name in DNS, but I'm unable to bring back ICMP packets from them. I also can't do a trace route with that. But what seems to happen, let's check to see what happens on this. If I use my Wi-Fi adapter, and not use my Ethernet adapter. As you can see, by not going through the firewall, I have no problems pinging whatsoever. But when I have my firewall enabled and I'm using my firewall, it's not up yet. Hang on. Still identifying my device. Okay, so now you see my name I've changed. So now by using the firewall is not allowing the ICMP package to return. So the firewall is blocking the simple use of ping, which is something you would normally want to have happen, mainly because denial of service attacks can come right from the firewall or right from an ICMP attack right there. So because we know that ICMP right now is being blocked, we're going to go ahead and we're going to write something called an access control list. And we're going to permit the ICMP packets in the any and for echo. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go into configure our terminals, and let's go in and type access -list 100. We're going to permit ICMP any echo. Then we're going to access list. These are called these are called ACEs, okay, access control entries that we're doing right now. We're going to permit ICMP. Any. And now we want the echo reply. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're also going to allow for time exceeded to come back in. Can't type. And we're also going to have the items that might say unreachable to come through as well. So now we put in, now anything after this, because it's an access control list, would typically be an implicit deny. Now, access lists don't do anything unless we apply them to something. So we want to put these on the outside interface. Okay, we're going to apply the access control list to the outside interface on anything coming into the firewall, not going out, but everything coming in. So my ping went out to Amazon. The reply wasn't allowed to come back in from Amazon. So the next step is for us to say access group 100 in interface on the outside interface. Now, if we exit out of here and we do a show run again, you'll see that my access control list has been placed in here. And then right here in this top line here, you can barely see it, but right there, that is where we placed it. So we placed the access control list 100 on anything inbound on the outside interface. So let's see now if we have the ability to ping. Because we allowed the replies to come back, we can actually ping now. So that all worked. Okay? The next thing we want to do on our PCs, we want to open up another session, and we want to telnet into a site called telehack.com. So let's go ahead and try that. File. New session. And we are going to telnet, so it'll switch to port 23, and we're going to go to telehack.com. Now, we just telnetted out, and as you can see, telnet was not blocked. Okay. Now we're going to see what we have available to us here. We're going to run the Star Wars command. Oh, I typed that incorrectly. It's right here. Star Wars, this guy right there. We type it in exactly how it is. And then somebody had a great deal of time on their hands where they did a large portion of the Star Wars movie using ASCII characters. And I think I've watched it for 20 minutes so far and still went. So I don't know, I seriously doubt the entire movie's in here, but it is pretty darn cool nonetheless. Let me go ahead and do a Control-C to stop watching that. Actually, let's go ahead. I wanted you to see R2-D2 and Starship Destroyers and everything else come up, but you can do that on your own. It's a lot of fun. Let's go back to our ASA terminal here. Now we're at that. Okay, so now we're going to do config T. We're going to do access list 101. We're going to deny TCP, okay, from any source to any destination, anything that is equal to Telnet. We're going to allow everything else to come through. That's important. We're going to permit IP to any source to any destination. Remember, access lists don't do any good if we don't apply them somewhere. So now we're going to do an access group command. In on the inside interface. Now, if we try to go to a new session to telehack, you see that the connection was refused. It wasn't refused by telehack, it was refused by our firewall. Because we're not allowing on the inside interface anything to occur in that manner. The next protocol we want to test through our firewall is the Ftp protocol, File Transfer Protocol. So we're going to install an Ftp client. So we're going to need to open up a web browser. And we're going to install or download the WinSCP.net. We're going to download it and then install this package onto our PCs. I do not want to hit any of those advertisements there. They almost got me. This should be it right here. Okay, there it is. It's right here. Came in rather quickly. Let's go ahead and install for all users. I am the only user on this PC anyway. We'll do a typical installation. I'm going to opt out of the old donation piece right now, you know, just because. He did not want me to opt out of donating, for sure. Right, so now here I am in the WinSCP application. Okay, so we launched that, and we're going to choose the FTP protocol. And we're going to go to the host test.rebex.net. So test.rebex.net. The username is demo. And the password is, you ready for this? Secret password. And we're going to go ahead and log in. And now as you can see, it's listing all my stuff in my documents folder over here. And then over here, this is everything that's on the site. So what we're looking at is the ability for us to FTP data back and forth. Okay. So in the right window, we got the pub directory. Let's go ahead and open up the pub directory. And let's open up the example directory. And these are the files that are inside the example directory over at Rebex, test.rebex.net. Okay. So right now we can view all that, and we have the ability to transfer files back and forth. Okay. So everything worked out well for us there. Let's go ahead and close this session for now. Okay. Say no, we're not going to save everything. Hit cancel. Try it again. Dumb. Okay, press no to enable automatic saving of your workspace. Terminate session. Yes, we're going to terminate our session. Okay, we're out. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to go back in, and now we're going to do an access control list. We're going to do no access list 101. So we're going to remove the access list 101. So no access dash list 101 permit any. Now the reason we're doing that is because we've already said to TCP for Telnet we're going to block, okay? But then after that we said everything else has to do in the IP suite we're going to allow. But now we decided we want to maybe work on the FTP side and maybe block some stuff. So we're going to remove the that line. What did I miss? Oh, IP any. My bad. So we removed that last line, that second line in the 101 access control list. We removed that, okay? Now we're going to say access list 101. We want to deny TCP any, so it's any source to any destination, equal to FTP. Now remember that FTP has, doesn't like some, I have a typo. FTP has two ports. It has FTP and FTP data. So we're going to have to block them both. We're going to do the same thing again, but we're going to do a dash data on the end of this one. Okay. So what we've done is we've just added two deny statements to the 101 list. So we're denying Telnet. Now we're going to deny FTP. We still need to go through and then permit everything after that. Because at the end of an access control list, everything is implicitly denied. So now, if we were to take a look at this, we should have just blocked the WinSCP application from getting out to the test rebox. So let's go to rebox again. So let's try it. Let's make sure we're doing FTP. And it's going to be test.rebex.net. The username we said was demo, and the password was password. Let's go ahead and log in. And as you can see, we can no longer FTP on our website or on our device behind our firewall. It's going to keep trying to connect until it finally just gives up. So that concludes a basic setup of an ASA firewall for you. It's basically what I would call part one of our lab today. And that's what we're going to go ahead and unpack our devices here so that if we want to, maybe I'm going to go back and watch Star Wars on the telehack thing after I disconnect from my firewall. Now, first thing that I'm going to do, okay, before I do anything, is I'm going to come back over to here and I want to my configure, okay, on this one. Now you always want to do this when you're done with your devices. You always want to reset everything back to your factory defaults. So in this case here, I want to do configure factory -default. See, I just hit my tab key and it completed it for me. And then it's going to then set it back to factory defaults, and I should have everything back up and running the way it's supposed to, or the way it is right out of the box. We'll do a double check on that real quick. Going to finish this recycle here. Okay. We're going to make sure that we can open up a new connection. We're going to telnet over to telehack. And you'll see we're in there. We're going to go ahead and do Star Wars. And as you can see that the ASA firewall has been put back to factory. That concludes our lesson for today, and we'll see you back here soon. Catch you later.